Is Star Wars The Old Republic's Jaesa Wilsaam a psychopath?
I want my home world of Alderaan to burn. Crushing its people and laying waste to its castles.
First, we should establish what exactly a psychopath is. According to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, a psychopath is a person who is mentally ill, who does not care about other people, and who is usually dangerous or violent. The reason this question is interesting is because some who have played Star Wars The Old Republic believe that Jaesa Wilsaam's fall to the dark side occurred too fast, and Jaesa acquired a taste for blood in mere seconds. A fairly famous Sith Lord is also criticized for much the same fictional flaw, but we'll compare and contrast Jaesa Wilsaam and Anakin Skywalker a little later in this video. So to go any further, I suggest we establish whether or not Jaesa actually fell to the dark side too quickly. Anyone who knows the story is aware that Jaesa possesses a power that is unusual, even among the Jedi. She is somehow able to determine the psychological nature of anyone she chooses. She can tell whether someone is honest, a liar, whether they're light or dark, and what they might actually think of her when their words relate something different. Jaesa was the daughter of Alderaanian servants. Her parents had hoped for Jaesa to marry into the Alderaanian nobility, but after having spent some time around the upper class, Jaesa was certain she did not belong among them. I don't believe it was so terrible for her then when Jedi approached her parents about her strength in the Force. Jaesa's parents gave her up to the Jedi, and she learned from several masters. She also learned to restrain her special ability, not to abuse it, but Jaesa had not even achieved the status of Jedi Knight before the Republic and her master, Nomen Karr, put her abilities to use in their conflict with the Empire. Jaesa worked diligently to uncover Imperial operatives among Republic ranks, but the Jedi path is a restrictive and often judgmental one. Jaesa no doubt saw flaws in her Jedi comrades, and perhaps even some of her masters. It was then that a Sith warrior came into her life, and turned everything she knew, and had learned from the Jedi, on its head. In the game, Star Wars The Old Republic, the player can choose to use the Sith warrior to kill Jaesa's parents, Alderaanian acquaintances, and some of her Jedi friends, as well as her former master, Yonlok. Despite doing all these terrible things to several people that Jaesa is supposed to care for, she would join the Sith warrior on his quest when the two finally meet for the first time. At this point, Jaesa's mental health comes into question. If the Sith warrior leans too much toward the light side of the Force, Jaesa will join him, but maintain her attachment to the Jedi Code. It is important to note at this time that the Sith warrior can kill all of Jaesa's people and still lean enough toward the light so that Jaesa will not adopt the dark side persona. However, if the Sith warrior leans toward the dark side, Jaesa will become a bloodthirsty Sith apprentice. And this is why she is my favorite Star Wars The Old Republic character. Jaesa is the only character in the game, other than the player, who can be either dark side or light side. So there are a few important questions that must be asked at this point. Number 1. How much could Jaesa have cared for her parents, her masters, and all the other people the Sith warrior had murdered, and would murder, if she became one of his traveling companions? Number 2. If Darkside Jaesa was a psychopath, does that mean that Lightside Jaesa was a psychopath also? And lastly, number 3. If Lightside Jaesa was a psychopath, what was her agenda? What did she intend to gain by following the Sith warrior? Okay, on to number 1. Did Jaesa really care for anyone? Currently, I've never come across anyone who could adequately excuse Lightside Jaesa's decision to follow the Sith warrior based on the premise that she still cared for any of the people he murdered. When Lightside Jaesa decided to follow the person who murdered her friends and family, she was indicating that she did not care enough about the harm brought upon those people in order to 1. Get revenge, or 2. Escape the Sith warrior's influence, Or 3. Attempt to stop the Sith warrior from doing harm to anyone else. Up to this point, it's difficult to diagnose Jaesa as a psychopath, but it is even more impossible to disqualify the possibility. By joining the Sith warrior, Lightside Jaesa did what she thought was best for herself first, and perhaps maybe the galaxy second, somehow. As a Sith apprentice, Darkside Jaesa relates to the Sith warrior how repressive life was under the Jedi. She also relates that she desired for her entire homeworld of Alderaan to burn, based on the fact that a few nobles treated her as a lesser person. These sentiments would suggest that maybe Jaesa doesn't care for anyone. Earlier I said we would compare and contrast Jaesa with Anakin Skywalker, also known as Darth Vader. When Anakin fell to the dark side and became Vader, many people suggest that he changed too quickly. They don't take into consideration the 3-year time difference between the murder of his mother and his revenge against the Sand People, with his initiation into the Sith. Perhaps Anakin was angry and desperate ever since the day his mother died. Perhaps the repressive Jedi doctrines were able to keep his anger at bay for a time. Perhaps his wife, Padme, was able to alleviate the pain he felt from his loss. Whatever the answer was, we know Anakin became Darth Vader, murdered children, and targeted Jedi for assassination, bringing pain and destruction to an entire galaxy. But as a Sith Lord, was he an immoral mustache-twirling evil for evil's sake psychopath who enjoyed murdering people? No. We know that Anakin sacrificed his life for Luke. This single act disqualifies him as a psychopath. To compare and contrast Jaesa and Anakin, we should determine whether or not she truly cared for someone other than herself. Perhaps there's an instance in the story when either Darkside or Lightside Jaesa sacrificed selflessly for another person the way Anakin did. Well, Lightside Jaesa did join the Sith Lord who murdered her friends and family, and her adherence to the Jedi Code would seem to restrict her from displaying strong feelings toward anyone. It may seem easy to argue that Anakin joined Palpatine, but who did Palpatine ever murder that Anakin may have actually cared for? His fellow Jedi, Kit Fisto? That Jedi never displayed a close relationship to Anakin. In fact, he sat on a Jedi council that Anakin constantly found himself at odds with, not long before his time of death. Anakin was desperate to save his wife from what he considered certain death, and the Jedi stood in the way of that. At that point, he could hardly be considered Anakin's friend. Palpatine was removing an obstacle that stood in the way of Anakin's ambitions. It could even be said that Palpatine was removing a person who, at the time, could loosely be considered Anakin's enemy. It's difficult to think of anyone that Lightside Jaesa selflessly sacrificed anything for, but perhaps Darkside Jaesa sacrificed for the Sith warrior. Other than becoming a disciple of a Sith Lord, Lightside Jaesa sticks rather closely to the Jedi Code. Darkside Jaesa, however, is easily romanceable, and would seem to care for the Sith warrior. But does Jaesa prove her love for the Sith warrior in any way that would undoubtedly disqualify her as a psychopath, the way Vader did when he sacrificed his life for Luke? Even psychopaths can enjoy sexual relations and decide to get married without ever developing an emotional attachment to their partner. So I'm skeptical of Darkside Jaesa's mental health as well. The Sith warrior proved that he was stronger than Jaesa when the two of them met. She no doubt latched onto his power, fully intending to use it for personal gain somehow. She related ambitions of producing the most powerful dynasty the galaxy had ever seen. So it's difficult to conclude that their marriage and sexual relationship was based in love on her part. Perhaps it was, but the story would seem to do nothing to prove that. As I stated earlier, Lightside Jaesa is not romanceable at all, and she would seem to be the polar opposite of Darkside Jaesa in all but one action. Both followed the Sith warrior. So now we will address question number 2. If Darkside Jaesa is a psychopath, does that mean that Lightside Jaesa is also? I'm going to go out on a limb here and say yes. Perhaps the most difficult thing about Jaesa to explain is her decision to follow the Sith warrior when she is aligned completely on the light side of the Force. How then could I suggest that she might be a psychopath? Simple. Not all psychopaths are murderous people, but all of them lack healthy emotional connections to other people. If Darkside Jaesa was intended to be a psychopath, I believe her mental condition was something the writers would have ingrained in her character to push the story forward. It could be a plausible reason for why a Jedi apprentice would choose to follow a Sith warrior. Jaesa's Jedi training and strength in the Force made her a capable and talented individual who would be able to choose what sort of life she wanted. She could have chosen any number of lives that would lead her away from the Sith and the Jedi both. She could have chosen any number of lives that would allow her to aid the Republic against the Sith. She could have defiantly accepted whatever reprisals there were for defying the Sith, much the way Obi-Wan Kenobi did in Star Wars: A New Hope. Instead, she joined them. That was the path that would cause her the least physical harm in the short run, and perhaps even provide her with the most power in the long run. Even though Lightside Jaesa stuck to the Jedi Code where romantic attachment was concerned, and disagreed with the Sith warrior whenever her new leader made dark-sided decisions, it's entirely possible that she was just playing out a role in order to better manipulate those around her. It was expected of a Jedi not to give in to temptations of the flesh. It was expected of them to disagree with dark-sided acts of cruelty. What better way is there for Jaesa to manipulate a light-side-leaning Sith warrior than to generally do what is expected of her? Now, granted, this is not the strongest line of reasoning in favor of the Psycho Jaesa theory, but I felt it had to be covered because it is not incredibly weak reasoning either. Some believable story mechanism should exist to explain Lightside Jaesa's decision to follow any Sith Lord, whether Lightside or Darkside, which finally leads us to question number 3. If Lightside Jaesa was a psychopath, what was her agenda? What did she intend to gain by following the Sith warrior? Jaesa was human. What do most humans want? A better life, more opportunities, power, wealth, prosperity. The life her parents led as servants does not allow much of this. Neither does the Jedi Code. Once Jaesa uncovered Master Nomen Karr's flaws, perhaps she felt liberated from a life of servitude and sought a life of greatness. I mentioned earlier that Darkside Jaesa expressed the desire to sire a dynasty of rulers. I'm not certain the light side intended to go down that exact same route. According to the game, it would seem doubtful. But so does her supposed selfless nature. What I can be certain of is that Lightside Jaesa went on to aid those she thought might need the help of someone trained as a Jedi, after she was separated from the Sith warrior. According to Jedi Master Ranos, Lightside Jaesa is responsible for many selfless acts. It is unclear if she actually sacrificed much in aiding the people she helped, but I believe it is the strongest evidence to date that challenges the Psycho Jaesa theory. But is she still playing a part in doing what is expected of a Jedi, or is she helping those people out of the kindness of her heart? So, is there any conclusive evidence, one way or another, that would suggest Jaesa is or isn't a psychopath? Some people have strong feelings about this topic, and not all agree. For anyone who says they know for sure, one way or another, I would challenge them to prove it. Tell me your opinions in the comment section. Let me know who your favorite Star Wars TOR character is. Do you think Jaesa will return sometime in the future? And most of all, enjoy yourselves discussing Star Wars.